Welcome back to the Push Health Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Maciel, aka this is episode number 3. I'm here with Yohan Martinez, and this is the podcast where we talk about real business, real systems, real structures with real entrepreneurs and real innovators who have real problems to solve with real solutions with real results. Yohan, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Nick. Thank you so much for having me here. Very excited.
Yeah, excited to have you here, and thanks for being on. And it's a little bit different than prior podcasts in that I guess I have a conflict of interest in this one. You and I are actually business partners, which our project, EVA Rising, is going to be something we'll discuss a bit in this podcast. But I just wanted to start off, of course, as I do in the past with other guests, with a little bit about your personal background, professional background, so all of the listeners understand who you are.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Nick. Well, actually, I used to be a filmmaker for over 11 years, and so very different than the tech industry. And I was filming a movie in France like 2 years ago when my girlfriend passed away, and that shifted everything for me. Just my entire world collapsed, and I decided to quit the film industry eventually, and where I no longer felt like I was being my highest self, and I decided to just dedicate my entire life to focusing on researching and studying consciousness, and that's how I got into the lucid world. Actually, Dasha and I were very much into the lucid, this whole lucid experience. We wanted to really. This is a funny story, but we actually wrote each other a note, and we put it in 2 separate envelopes, and we wrote our names on each of the envelopes. So I have no idea what she wrote in her envelope, and she didn't know what I wrote in my envelope.
Okay.
And the whole point was for us to have a lucid experience and go check what each of us wrote in the envelope, so we could corroborate, the experience. And to this day, I still haven't had the chance to. I still don't know what she wrote in the envelope, so I very much look forward to having that experience and being able to check what's in there.
Yeah, that'll be incredible. And hey, sorry to hear about your loss, but I think, a beautiful component of what I've learned about you since this loss has been that, I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs and business people, innovators and visionaries come from a perspective of, their drive comes from a completely different place. They, it might be that they just have a personal vendetta, or they want to prove something to themselves or to their community. But for you, it's much more personal with this loss. And I think it's incredible that you've, displayed resilience with it and have used it for productivity and for good and for things that would probably make her happy and make her proud. So the envelope, though, you having not read it yet, I assume you're in possession of it.
Yes, it is. It's by my bedside, and what is beautiful about it is that I feel like she left me a quest. Like I have an actual quest that I'm very much looking forward to accomplish, and I want to accomplish in the proper way. The way we set ourselves to do it. So I've been very much focusing into the lucid dreaming experience, and I guess I still have my ways to go with the full astral projection and getting there.
Yeah.
But it is very exciting.
So you talked a little bit about how you got into, well, actually, you're in the lucid induction space now, right? It was a big part of your relationship.
Yeah.
And when you were filmmaking, right, did lucidity have a play into your filmmaking work? How long and what was kind of the origin source have you been interested in lucid induction and lucidity?
Well, to be honest, lucidity was something that I was always into. I started very young. Very young. It feels like I'm so old, but when Inception came out, do you remember the movie?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Inception opened a world for me where a lot of people were talking about it, and the movie was out there and talking about this experience, and I had never experienced it before. So I was really curious. I was like, is this even real? Can I experience it? So, I went like everybody else. I went on YouTube. I got a lot of tutorials and I started practicing. There are some techniques and there are some things that you can do to actually induce the experience by yourself, because it's a natural ability that we actually all have.
Hmm.
And sure enough, I dived into this world, and one day I had my first lucid dream, and
Mm.
it was mind shifting, mind blowing. I mean, for the first time in my life, I realized that, oh, I'm in two places at the same time. Like, I left
Hmm.
my body in my tiny bedroom apartment in Paris, where I was a student back then, and
Hmm.
I was like, how is it possible that I left my body there, but I'm also here, and everything is just so real. The sensations, the touch, the smell is just, you're really in another dimension. Like, it's just so real. So
Yeah.
that completely shifted my mind. Ever since, I was like, I need to go back there. There has to be a way of going back. How can I get better at this? And that place holds so much potential for learning skills and just becoming a better person and just feeling and experiencing so much more of this reality. So whenever I was making movies or anything in my life, that place always took had a big importance for me, where
Hmm.
I always knew there was more. And I guess that's also why eventually I left the film industry after the tragedy and everything that happened. I just felt like I was not fulfilling my full potential. There was a
Mm.
place for me that was calling me to do something greater, to embrace the full potential of my mind, and hopefully to share this with the world, to allow people to experience it also.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so you talk about allowing others to experience it. And for those listeners who have been here before, and for those who haven't yet, the whole premise of Pushing Shelves podcast is the creation of real enterprise and real value from ideas and concepts. And so, what for you was kind of that tipping point where you said, I can actually get into business with lucidity. I can actually create EVA Rising, the startup, with this concept of lucidity, and then perhaps give the listeners, I guess, a piece of advice, like for someone like me who I've had lucid dreams, but I struggle to induce it. What is the strategy or the technique that you found best achievable to creating lucidity?
Yes, that's exciting. There's a lot of potential in all those questions that you just mentioned. Um, Lucidity. How? What would you like me to start with first? The advice on how to get there, how to experience it.
Let's get into the juicy part, which is the advice of how to induce it individually, and then we can get into the tech. Yeah.
Yes. So, and this is the most exciting part, is first acknowledging that it's a natural ability. So this is something that we can all naturally do, and actually we all do it every night, whether we're conscious of it or not, whether we remember it or not. It's, 1/3 of our lives go by. We go to bed, we knock out, we wake up in the morning, but what happened in that chunk, right? We just
Mm.
kind of blacked out, lost consciousness. For most people, that's what it is. It's just most people don't remember what happened there. Actually, some people say, "Oh, I don't dream. I never dream." It's a muscle. Uh, the short-term memory is actually gets disconnected when we go to sleep, and it gets reconnected back when we wake up in the morning. And there is this very liminary space where we can actually recall them. So I had some experiences sometimes where I wake up in the morning and I feel like, oh, strange, I didn't dream last night. But then I make an effort to reconnect with that memory. And all of a
Mm.
sudden, like a couple of weeks ago, this happened to me. I felt like I didn't have any dreams. But then I made the effort of recalling it. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, I had this dream and that dream. And then I started writing. I had 7 dreams that night where I
Wow.
thought that I didn't dream, but I did. So we all do. We're disconnected from it because
Yeah.
it doesn't have much relevance. in our daily
Yep.
lives. We feel like, oh, it's just dreams. Why, doesn't have much importance to us in our regular daily lives. Uh, but it actually does. And so the
Mm-hmm.
best way, I think, for me to get there is
Mm-hmm.
to focus on the person that can actually do it. So first of all, you have to connect with that part of you, thinking, I can do this. I can have this
Mm-hmm.
experience. You have to long for it. You have to want it. And as you dive into that desire, the wish to have the experience, you're slowly starting to wire your brain towards the experience. The techniques,
Mm-hmm.
so there's many different techniques that you can try. One of the main ones is reality checks. So throughout the day, you just build the habit of checking, am I dreaming? Is this a dream? You just ask yourself the question genuinely. You might feel silly at first. You're like, well, of course not. I'm awake. Um,
Right.
but eventually you start building the habit and you bring it on with you during the dream. So eventually, while you're dreaming, you will ask yourself the question, and that will trigger the the lucidity. That will trigger the awakening within the dream.
Mm, that's incredible. And so, a lot of my listeners are business owners. What are some of the practical benefits outside of the dream, outside of lucidity, that lucidity creates? Is it beneficial for physical, mental health? What are some of the things that you've seen?
The potential of that place is insane. First of all, we have to acknowledge the fact that lucidity, that space of that dream world, is a place of pure freedom from our consciousness. This is where our consciousness is in its more pure state.
Hmm.
Everything is possible. Absolutely anything you can imagine is possible. And you can do so many things there that you can actually bring back into this reality. First of all, learning skills, practicing skills. You want to become a better athlete, a better whatever it is that you want to achieve, just practicing it there. All the knowledge that you do get there, you can bring it back. And
Mm,
and that's actually tangible, it's measurable. Actually, there's been some studies, not necessarily directly in the lucid space, but the mental rehearsing space. And this is something that
mm,
most entrepreneurs and athletes they naturally do. Is
mhm,
we don't just perform on the ring, on the courtyard, on the stage, right? We also perform in our minds. We prepare ourselves for ahead of the
mhm,
experience, and the more we prepare within our mind, the better and more efficient we become during when it comes to perform. So
absolutely.
that space. So when we're imagining things, when we're preparing things in our mind, it's like using 10% of that power. When we go into the lucid world, it's a full blown experience where all your senses are activated. Everything feels just so real because it is.
Hmm.
So you get the full benefit of that practice. It's also helpful for trauma integration, shadow integration, solving like
Yeah,
PTSD, people who suffer from trauma, and there's just so much potential in it that can be extracted.
absolutely. No, that's thank you so much for that description. I think that's so helpful for everyone because you know I've heard stories, right, where there's programmers who will actually code in a lucid dream, and then they'll be able to solve the bug that they had the next day in real life, and or during daytime life. And what's interesting is that I've also heard stories of chess champions. I forget who it was, but there's a world famous chess champion who would consistently have lucid dreams about chess matches, and that would improve his performance. And it's interesting because in entrepreneurship and business or in anything with practice that requires practice and consistency, there's that 10,000 hour rule, right? That everyone talks about
Yes.
where you got to spend 10,000 hours, quote unquote, to become an expert at something. What's interesting is that what's an hour defined by, right? I mean, if we only have, let's say 12 to 18 active hours during the day, right? During the night period, without completely depleting our body's energy systems, can we actually experience our solution set or reps towards our practice goal in lucidity? And the answer is unequivocally yes. It's super cool to see this emerge. My next question to you is, so for listeners, who pay attention in the beginning, you and I are business partners. We are involved, you at a managerial and visionary level, and myself at a technical level with EVA Rising, your startup, which is a lucid induction platform. Tell the listeners what EVA Rising is all about.
Yeah, well, actually, the mission of Ever Rising is first of all to get us there by all means available and necessary. And for that, we have two main focus. The first focus is to tell people, to help people get there on their own. So just by raising awareness, sharing with people the skills, the tools, the mindset that they need to get there on their own. This is something very important because it's a natural ability at its core.
Yep.
We together, what we're working on is developing a technology that will help us get there at will, on command, basically. And that's the real importance of the technology. Why this technology is so important is so it allows us to study lucidity in a reliable control environment, and it solves many problems. First of all, it makes it a reality for everyone. So people don't have to wonder, hey, I've never had a lucid dream, I've never had an astral projection, like, is this real? Or, no, just you put the headset on and then you experience it for yourself, period. It's just as beautiful as that. That's one of the main goals of the technology that we're developing. And the second main objective with this technology is being able to research it on at will, right? So if I wanted to study lucidity, if I wanted to, because at the end of the day, what is that world? What is that place? We don't really know. There's so many questions about why is this happening? How is this happening? And what can we do there? What is the information that we can extract? So if I have to sit around for you to have a lucid dream, I might sit around here for couple days, weeks, eventually I might be sleeping and you call me and you're like, Johan, I had a lucid dream, or I had an experience. And so I'd be like, okay, Nick, just tell me. And if I have to rely on your account, it's very unreliable from a scientific standpoint. So being able to induce it at will and us just going there whenever we want, and then now we can perform tests and explore and really collect data, neural data, and create real life applications for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Super exciting. And there's always been this big, I would say, recent investigation in light of scientific progress, especially with regards to not just in neurology and how it's associated with dreaming, but in particular with the pineal glands. Depending on the religious, spiritual, or scientific context, there's multiple ways of looking at the pineal glands and the different centers of the brain. But ultimately, with the pineal gland, it's been referred to as the third eye. It's been referred to as a consciousness source. It's been referred to as the place where dreams develop, or where dreams come from, if there were to be almost kind of a factory analogy to the brain. It is a very interesting part of the brain, and it is very sensitive. And what's great about the field of neurology is with technologies like fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, there are labs that Yohan and I can and are planning to access where we can monitor safely the effects of this lucid induction headset prototype and soon to be product on in a preclinical and a clinical capacity. So there's a lot involved there, right? The technology that we're developing, a lot of which is, of course, under wraps between us and behind the scenes, but a lot of the componentry that goes into it already exists. The literature is starting to really outpour. There's some potential competition in the field. When you got into EVA Rising, right, that had to be some sort of self-discussion. I'm actually wondering if this is something you lucid dreamt, ironically. But What was the decision making process from here's an idea for the startup and let's position it to let's take this seriously. Nick, I want to partner with you, and now we have a business roadmap. What was kind of the decision making process to cross over into that space?
What was very decisive for me is the fact that I just wanted this to happen. I
Mm,
wanted to go there, and I knew that I could get there on my own by practicing the skills. And I've been there so many times, so I've experienced it. But my personal experience, it's very sporadic, and it's hard to
mhm,
control. It's a skill that it takes a lot of mastering, and it's not easy.
mm,
I wanted a way for us to get there reliably on command. That will just I just wanted to be able to get there. And I thought, if nobody's doing it, we have to do it. Somebody has to make
mhm,
this happen. And I felt a rise in technology, the advancement
mhm,
of technology overall in the world right now. It's so conductive for us to make this now. With the rise of artificial intelligence, we can calculate things that we couldn't calculate before at speed. We can follow things that we couldn't do before. And there is more people that, like you said, there is a certain level of competition, but it's so minimal right now. This is we're definitely in the innovative phase, and so there's
mhm.
very few people that are working on this or on compatible technology. And actually, I find it very exciting. I wouldn't want to see it as competition, but more
Mhm.
as potential collaborators in the future, people who we want to work with, so we can get there faster together. Because to me, it's not a race about who gets there first. It's more about how can we get there faster together.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that so much. And I truly believe that you have to dive in head first in anything you set your mind to, because if it's not going to be you, someone else is going to do it. And then there's only really two outcomes. Number one is the technology doesn't advance, or number two is someone did it before you and now you live in regret. And so the only two emotions you can elicit, right, are either regret or I guess impatience, right? So um, now a tech startup is not easy, right? You could have started a fulfillment business. You could have started a film business. Actually, ironically, like you could have started a music entertainment business. Um, what to you is kind of the prominent like this is the biggest pro of doing it this way, and then kind of the con of like I this is what I know I'm going to have to face starting a tech startup.
Well, first of all, I do have film business. I've been a producer for over 11 years. I have my own production company, which I don't know if I stopped it completely, but at least I'm taking a huge break from it right now. And the main challenge for me in moving into this tech world is, first of all, that I don't necessarily feel like I'm the most qualified to be
Mm,
doing this or to be developing any type of technology, really. But one quote that really speaks to me is that God doesn't call the qualified; it qualifies the
mm,
called. And I definitely feel called to do this. This is, for me,
mm,
it's a calling. I have to do this. This is the only reason that I wake up every morning. This is the only thing I really want to do. This is the only thing that makes sense to me. This has
mm,
importance, and I definitely, by His grace, feel
mm,
more qualified by the minute, with every step I take, with every action I take. And there's also this quote by Simon Sinek, which I love a
I
lot.
love starting. Yeah,
Exactly, yeah, I consider him to be a great leader.
yeah.
And as a leader, he always says, "I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. As a matter of fact, as a leader, I want to be surrounded by people who are smarter than me." And I
Hmm.
feel like where I stand, a big part of my job is not to do everything myself, but to get
Hmm.
surrounded and to work with the people who are more qualified than me to do this, and put these people together, put the team together to make this happen. And this is a it's a challenging that I find very exciting because I'm also looking forward to. I love meeting people who are better than me. I love meeting
Same.
people who bring me to new heights and who open doors to new potential, and the excitement of collaborating together and the things that we can do together. That fascinates me. That gets me going.
Me too. I think in the roadmap of what we're about to accomplish with this technology, I always say, two things. The first is it's just a mimic of what you said, which is always be the dumbest in the room. Um, I think that there's going to be a lot of external partners we bring in on all sides of the science and the business and the tech that are just going to completely rock our world in a good way and show us the light when it comes to what needs to get done. And then the second thing really is that if you focus on quality of product, the rest will come. Like as much as it's easy for us to talk about operational details, I don't say it's easy, but simple for us to talk about operational details of a tech startup. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the living, breathing machine is the headset and the reason it exists in the first place, the vision behind inducing lucidity. And if that isn't accomplished, then the rest of the mission or the rest of the pipeline or the rest of the roadmap, however you label it, isn't accomplished. And so I always tell founders that when you're getting started, especially with an invention, to always just focus on maximizing product quality as much as possible because it will sell itself, it will market itself, people will take interest to it like wildfire. I'm curious because I definitely have my pitch contribution into our collective answer, but what is your 5-year roadmap and what's your 10-year roadmap? Because reality is we have a headset we're working on. Could it be more that we work on in the future? Where kind of, as the visionary, are you thinking of a decade in advance?
Well, this is a beautiful question, and I think there's two parts to it. First is the fact that this is getting more and more popularity, right? This is a natural
Mm.
ability that we all have. Certain cultures have been experiencing and mastering this for, decades, centuries. The Buddhists, for example, the Egyptians, like so
Yeah.
many cultures have developed this skill to a point that is fascinating, and it's just getting more and more popular in our Western culture. We're getting more classes. People are hearing about it. So I definitely see, whether it's through the technology that we're developing or whether it's through the natural development of our inbuilt ability,
Mm.
I foresee a world in which people can naturally go back and forth between both planes, like it's a regular Tuesday. And
Yeah.
definitely, uh, what we would like to bring with the technology is definitely a vessel for people to do that anytime they want, right? So
Mhm.
5 years from now, I'd like to think that everybody or a huge chunk of the population would have one of those headsets at home, and it's just that something that we do, And also
Absolutely.
something that gets me very excited is the possibility of this is also a place where we might be able to actually hang out together. There is a lot of uh, cases that have been reported, and some that are actually close to me, where people have shared experiences in this lucid plane. So, can you just imagine? I would tell you, "Hey, Nick, let's. What are you doing tonight? Let's just go on the moon, fly around for a little bit. Let's practice some skills. Why not get better at teleportation or something?" And
Yeah.
I think this is something not only very exciting, but it's a reality actually that is around the corner for
Yeah.
humanity, for all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and what that experience looks like, I think, is dynamic, right? Because ultimately, we're just taking that experience and we're translating it into the material world, and we're doing that through tech. And there's so many different things that can be done. It's about making the person feel comfortable, about making them feel capable, as you said very clearly, and about making people feel responsive to their lucid state such that they can remember it, recall it, and it becomes an integral part of their life. I see it personally. The reason I got onto the project on the tech side is, first of all, it's viable. but second of all, the ability for people to actually integrate this as a hobby. One of the things that should definitely, like, I think that's going to be the elephant in the room of this podcast, and I'd love to hear your answer to this. I'll kind of give a soundbite myself here, but there's going to be skeptics. There's different degrees of skeptics. There's
Yes.
people that come from a place of envy, which don't know why, but that's a very low level of skepticism. And then you go to the highest level of skepticism, which is this is never going to work. It will cause humans to become zombified as a species. This is the next worst thing past VR, and their claim. This kind of skepticism, right? And my little soundbite here, I challenge that by saying, right, that a technology should be intelligently regulated. Just because there are adverse uses to a technology does not mean it should be restricted. And if the net benefit is there, then it's worth it. An example of like a baseball bat. A baseball bat can kill a room full of people, but a baseball bat is often used for baseball, right? And so there are technological benchmarks, if you will, that we're going to integrate in the stack of business to ensure that it's a favorable and positive only experience. So what's your response to the skepticism?
I Okay, definitely. When starting something new, especially when it comes to innovation, but also as an artist, every time you want to create something, when you put a piece of art out there, something that is new, there's always people who are going to criticize, people who are going to judge, people who are going to, those voices, they are always there. And we just kind of listen to them, otherwise we don't do anything. And this
Mm.
happens throughout history. When we talk about technology, this has happened so many times, and it's happening now. For example, with the rise of artificial intelligence, there's a lot of people who are scared about it. What if artificial intelligence takes over the world and our jobs and our lives? And yes, it's true that every advancement, every technological advancement is going to put an end to something, and that is
Right.
normal. Like, we're saying goodbye to the old world to create a new one.
Mm-hmm.
But that is exciting. That's evolution. That's just natural evolution for
Mm-hmm.
humanity, for society. And I think human beings, we're wired to preserve, how do you call this? We just want to preserve ourselves, right?
Yes.
And we're scared of change, like survival. Our survival instinct doesn't want us to change. That's what makes manifesting in our lives really hard, is that actually our brains, we want millions, we want a new car, a new house, a new thing, but our brain deep down is hardwired to say, no, please don't change, like, this is good, like, let's stay
Yeah.
here. And we have to make the effort, the inner effort of saying, no, I want more, I want to create a better life, I see, I have a vision. And so we have to pierce through. And not only
Yeah.
that, I believe that skepticism is good for us in a sense, because I want people to be asking questions. I want people to be
Yeah.
like, what are you guys doing? What is this? What's happening? And
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that I want people to know is that, hey, if you've never had a lucid dream, even, forget about the technology, forget about a headset for a second, just try to have the experience on your own, because it's real. So many people are having them, and you can learn. This is a natural skill that you have. Just try to develop it on your own, and eventually, once the headset is out there, hopefully in a near future, then the discussion will be closed. It's just put the headset on and experience it for yourself.
Absolutely. I think there's always this debate over, like, is there such a thing as stupid questions or no stupid questions? And what I always say is, if there were to be a debate about a question being stupid, there should be two qualifiers. The first is, does it reveal something that can be contributed against, or does it reveal value, right? Or the second thing is does it reveal trust? So if it's revealing trust, the question was asked to make sure that there's a connection between, like, for example, us and the skeptic, right? But if it's to reveal value, that's something that we can take back. So we're either taking something back or we're clarifying something, right? And so questions are great. Like, skepticism is a great natural part of what we're doing. Go a little into specific. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, I just wanted to say that I also believe that certain things, they're meant to happen and they just cannot be
Mm.
stopped. Like artificial intelligence, whether people are scared about it or not, it just cannot be stopped. It's meant to happen. It's already happening. You can be scared, you can be skeptic, but it's just happening. It's a natural evolution of consciousness itself. And it's helping solve so many problems. It's advancing humanity further on so many levels. It's making our lives easier on so many levels. So
Mm.
the technology lucid induction is also one of those technologies that it holds so much potential for humanity on so many levels that I believe whether it's to us, somebody else, somebody in the near future, it just cannot be stopped. This is something that it must happen and it will happen. And personally, I want to move the needle as far as I can for us to get there. And
I
this is
agree.
and this is something that I believe humanity is actually ready for. Whether we're scared of it or not, I think we all long for it. This this is a place where you can be anyone you want. You can do anything you want. You can fly, you can teleport, you can experience anything that you want. And this we long for this. I mean, at the
Hmm.
end of the day, we're not here just to pay taxes and mortgage or we all want to experience life in its fullest form. And there is
Hmm.
no more freedom than you can experience in the lucid space. That's the
Yeah,
place where you experience the most amount of freedom.
yeah. One of the biggest conversations I've had with folks that are invested into what we're doing um, is that there's a concern over, okay, what if it's just an escape from reality? And what I think is very interesting about that is it presupposes two things. The first is it presupposes that an escape is a bad thing. And the second is that it presupposes that reality isn't intertwined, right? And so escaping, I don't have enough fingers to count. Drugs, violence, right? People escape all the time. In fact, escaping is part of life. It's what you escape to and how you escape that matters. Some of us, we escape with a good nap in the middle of the day. I'd consider that a pretty healthy escape. Or going to the gym, uh, volunteering, local charity, right? These could be considered escapes from, I guess, the standardized lifestyle, right? And then reality, we still are trying to get a finger or a pulse on reality, right? We're still trying to understand what reality is, and people are more and more aware of, at the very least, the fact that we have a subconscious that's extraordinarily strong that can be tapped into and responsibly tapped into. So I want to pivot a little bit and ask you, what are some tangible steps for someone who's listening who wants to start something like EVA Rising, where they know there's going to be a hardware stack involved, there's a mission that they have to put together and a team? What are some tangible steps taken?
Well, first I'd like to reiterate what you just said about reality and the fact that who is to say that only this plane of existence, like this table right here, this who's to say that this is just reality? When you go
Mm.
into your dreams, what you experience there is just as real. Just because you we don't necessarily know how to make sense of it, it doesn't make it any less real. And actually, for
Mm.
anyone who has had a lucid dream, a lucid experience, they would know that how real it is. Everything that
Mm.
you can sense, the touch, the smell. I I'm always amazed by the experience. One time I had this lucid experience where I was like on a little boat in the middle of a lake, and I just remember putting my hand in the water and being blown away by how is it possible that this water is wet? Like I was conscious that I left my body in my bedroom in Paris, but I'm also
Mm.
here in this lake and this water is fucking wet.
Mm.
I was just mind blown by how real the experience is. So to
Yeah.
me it's more about how can we expand our concept of reality. And like you said, there is a huge gain of popularity that is rising in our Western culture, whether it is, for example, with the works of Dr. Joe Dispenza, or more recently with the release of the CIA on Jacob Greenberg, or
Yeah.
previously on the laws of attraction, the secret manifestation, all of this at its core, or spirituality, whether it's whatever religion you're talking about, faith, it's we all want to tap into that space where everything
Yeah.
is possible. And this is something that we naturally long for, because we all want our lives to go better. We all want to manifest things. We all want to succeed. And it's important for us to tap into that space, to tap into the space where everything is possible. And that's what lucidity is. At its core, lucidity is the place where absolutely everything is possible.
Absolutely. That's incredible. No, I couldn't agree more. And I'll go back a little bit to the prior question. I kind of want to dive into, like, so many people out there are visionary, and I feel
Yes.
like a lot of people who are visionary struggle with structure, and a lot of structural people like myself need to tap into a vision. Often rely on partners or rely on um, new forms of interpretation. And so, what would be some tangible steps that perhaps you've taken or avoided that you're aware of for somebody who wants to start a hardware startup, but they know that that's just the vessel for their vision? What are some things you had to do to get started?
Well, I think the most challenging part for anyone to start anything is believing in themselves, first of all. And I
Mm,
think it's a learning curve that requires consistency, persistency,
mm,
and you want to take as many actions as possible towards your goal. And all actions count. Sometimes just waking up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm going to write my vision down. It may feel very
mm,
small. It may feel like, this is not going to advance anything, but it is. This is you
mm,
taking action on your vision. This is you
mm,
committing to the fact that, yes, I'm going to do this, and you want to take as many actions as possible in that direction. And there's actually this quote by, I don't know if it's from him, but I heard Brian Tracy said it, and he said, "Go as far as you can see, and then you will see far enough to go further." So
mm,
sometimes when we're starting something new, there is this overwhelming list of things that we have to do, and obstacles and challenges, and sometimes we don't know, like it's too much, or we don't know where to start. Just start where you can see. Just do that
mm,
first tangible step that is in front of you. Take action on it, and as soon as you do, you will see further. It will unlock in your mind, in your vision, it will unlock the next step. uh,
mm,
I would say also, be expressive about it, talk about it,
mm,
choose wisely, because you want to surround yourself with people who will encourage you,
mhm,
uh, set yourself up for success by finding the right people to cultivate this energy with, people who share your vision. And if you're in a place where people don't believe in you, then you need to move out. That's not the
leave.
right place for you to be in. Anyways, whether you're trying to start something new, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're in a place where people don't believe in you, you just remove yourself from there. Find the people
Mm,
who do. Find people who share the same passion. People who are already within whatever space you're trying to create something in. Go find those people, because
yeah,
those are the people who are going to make it possible, or at least is going to start
absolutely.
opening doors for you and to move in the direction you want to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Once again, I think a lot of people definitely struggle with being too close to comfort, but also comfort has its benefits. It's not just too close to comfort; it's too close to, um, I guess, a lack of alignment. Like, it's either comfort or discomfort for certain people, but if you're in an environment that's not trying to move the needle in the direction that you're trying to move the needle, then you'll never move the needle. And it's a hard pill for many to swallow. What would you advise when testing out an opportunity? Are some signs that people should look out for when getting into a venture to
For
know that it's the right one?
wait, can you rephrase the question?
Yeah. How does someone who has many ideas, because a
Yes,
lot of listeners, they have so many different ideas, they don't know where to
yes,
start, right?
yes.
They know they're ambitious, but which one do I pick, right? How do I pick in your mind?
Well, I would say two factors for me. The first one is, which one are you the most passionate about? That's
Mm,
uh, that's perhaps the main ingredient because you're
mhm,
gonna need it.
mhm,
You're gonna be facing so many challenges, and like you
mhm,
said, so much judgment and skepticism and problems and obstacles, and things are. It's hard to move
mhm,
things up in a new direction, and passion is going to be the fuel that is going to allow you to push through it and make it all
mhm,
the way till the end. So be sure to be passionate about the idea that you pick. um, Secondly, choose something that is going to help the most amount of people,
mm,
because if you can solve a problem, if you can help somebody,
mhm.
then your product, your vision, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, is necessary. And then
Yeah.
people are going to help you make it because there is a need for it. The world
Mhm.
needs that to happen. Um, so make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish helps as many people as possible. And then the vision
Yeah.
will be much easier to accomplish.
Yeah. That's a very, very, empowering message, I would say. And I couldn't agree more once again. And, I think part of what really stands out about our business relationship and the friendship we've developed is the synchronicity between me being a tech operator, you being a visionary and a leader. And that oftentimes is not guaranteed. You meet somebody and it's a complete coin toss. You have no idea if this person's going to meaningfully contribute. And you and I are both the type of people where we'll acknowledge that mistakes will happen along the way, and nothing will be like all pretty and rainbows through the whole process. And failing early and failing often is better than failing late and failing expensively. But um, what would you say as a founder, as a solo founder, completely forgetting about us for a second, and taking a blank slate approach? What would you say as a founder are your criteria in looking for a business partner?
I think that's a really good question. And at the end of the day, it comes to a skill that I believe to be extremely valuable. It's relational intelligence.
Mm,
And it comes down to being genuine and authentic.
mm,
You want to
mm,
strike meaningful relationships with people that, at its core, they're genuine and authentic. So,
mhm,
for example, the relationship that I had with you, that's what it was. I just felt that connection. I just knew, like,
mm.
wow, this is somebody I can trust. This is somebody
Right.
I feel like we have a genuine connection, we have a genuine vision, and we want to do this together, and we share this passion. And I felt like this is somebody I want to partner with. This is
Yep.
somebody I can run a marathon with and go on. I can see a long-term relationship. So you
Yep.
definitely want to look for trust. And the best way to look for trust is first to be trustworthy yourself. You want to come into the
Mm,
relationship by being open. Don't
mhm,
hide anything. Just put the cards
mhm,
on the table and say, hey, this is who I am. This is
mhm,
what I want to accomplish. These are my skills. And these
mhm.
are the things that also I'm not good at. Be honest about what it is that you're not good at, so you can find a person who can deal with that. You want to
Yeah.
build a team, and the only way to build a team is by, first of all, acknowledging where it is that you're not the most proficient, so you can find the right people.
Absolutely. It's funny because you talk about this authenticity and being open. And the first call you and I ever had, I had propped up my phone on a window ledge and I was assembling exercise equipment for a connection of mine.
I
And
remember.
I was basically in this contorted position with my head locked between my knee and my elbow, having a full conversation with you while I was building this Pilates machine. And I think that is just very much like, I'll speak for myself. That is just me. And I think it's funny because people have such a high artificial expectation for, I think, conduct. I think that I found the most success personally working on teams where the dress code isn't a thing and it's more like come in your sweatpants and just do what has to get done, as opposed to here's this dress code, but nothing's getting done. And it's not so much just about productivity, it's also genuinely about comfort. I feel like more talent and more progress will be retained the more comfortable people are. People
Yes.
view comfort, I feel like, as a laziness equation, but I feel like laziness and comfort sit somewhere on a Venn diagram and they're not necessarily mutually inclusive of one another. Um, and it would be ridiculous to say that by me taking a break after running a marathon, for example, that level of comfort would be considered unproductive. That would be a ridiculous assertion, right? Um, but anyways, I want to move on here, and in consideration of our time in closing, the number one question I had, right, for you is, what do you think lucidity would do for humankind? Whether it's as a technology or just in its pure state, what do you think lucidity will provide for humankind, assuming all humans were capable of it? Let's assume tomorrow we snapped our fingers, everyone could lucid dream. How would that change humanity?
Well, I definitely look forward to that future. I believe it to be near, maybe nearer than we think. And I just think it's a natural course of evolution for humanity. This
Mm,
is like saying, imagine a world in which humans couldn't walk, and eventually we realize, wait a second, hey, guys, I think we can walk, right? Wait, we now we can run, and now we just we're moving forward into the natural course of evolution, and
mm,
this is an ability that we're just barely awakening to,
mm,
and we all want this. Whether you can see it, people want to manifest more in their lives, people want to achieve more, and people are tuning into themselves, they're meditating more, they're listening to Joe Dispenza, Jacob Greenberg, all these things. There, people are trying to find ways to, because they know, people can feel it.
yeah,
They can feel that they have a potential. There's a potential inside of them, in their minds, that is still dormant, and
oh yeah,
people want to awaken it. And we're doing it. We're already it's like a muscle, like a collectively we're working on this muscle, because we want to make this happen, and it's going to happen. Whether it happens tomorrow, in 5 years, or 10 years, I believe it's going to happen way sooner than that. But this is just the natural way of evolution. Just see people enjoying this space and just going back and forth there, just natural, like it's a regular Monday, or any other day of the week.
yep. And I would argue that hedging natural evolution would not be the smartest idea. So, I would recommend to all listeners that really the biggest problems to solve, Johan, as you stated in multiple different ways throughout this podcast, is really, um, albeit you would have to be passionate about it and dedicated, the source of what you're pursuing has to really just transform some component of your environment. And I think that that's what's super exciting about this technology because it's doing that greatly at scale. Johan, where can people find your work? Obviously, with EVA Rising, I'll plug it in for us. It's evarising.com. You can look at our roadmap, our timeline, and kind of the sequence of development that we're currently undergoing. resources related to the technology and some hints as to the technology as well. And the original MVP preclinical stack of the lucid induction headset is currently under development, partnering with our capability at Cadversity. And we cannot wait to release results, media, and eventually experiences with this piece of technology. But Yohan, where can people find you?
Well, thank you. If you guys, you can find me on Instagram, I guess. If you want to follow the journey, you can. There's the link there. I guess we'll be dropping it
It will be in the bio.
somewhere in the
Yes.
platform. If you guys want to see a little bit more about EVA Rising and the technology itself, and there's going to be a lot more coming soon, right? We're still in the early stages. We're developing this together, the technology, but also we're going to be bringing a lot of new things to people. We definitely also want to help people learn these skills on their own. So we're opening the platform to many different layers. And so just stay tuned and please follow the journey. And hopefully, we'll be providing a lot of good content and uh, things that you can actually use on a daily basis now.
Absolutely. Yep. Um, Johan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so
Hey,
much.
thank you so much, Nick.